Today we are diving into Megan's gear bag to talk all things photography equipment for elopement photographers. She's breaking down exactly what she uses, what she skips, and why. So if you've ever wondered what gear actually makes the cut for real adventure elopements, this is the episode for you.
Welcome to Stoked, the podcast that helps adventure elopement photographers hit six figures and beyond in their businesses without hustling on social media. I'm your host, Megan McPhail, a former burnt-out emergency veterinarian that quit my hard-earned career to become an elopement photographer. Now I'm living a life I absolutely love, full of travel, adventure, and financial abundance, and I am hell-bent on helping you do the same. Are you ready to start booking out your calendar with dream couples in breathtaking locations and feeling genuinely stoked about your elopement photography business, life, and bank account? Then let's dive into this week's episode. Hey, it's your host, Megan McPhail.
And your co-host, Todd Reedy.
And I can't believe we've never truly covered this topic before. I've never really talked about my gear before and what I use to shoot elopements, but we're going to go over all of it today.
Yeah, and I love gear. Megan does not. She just has her gear. It works. I love learning about new stuff. I love watching reviews and trying new stuff and spending a lot of money and wasting a lot of money. But we are going to kind of dive in, and Megan's going to go through kind of her case. So we're getting ready to do an international trip tomorrow. When this comes out, it'll be like a week old. But nevertheless, we're doing some packing. And so Megan thought it would be a good opportunity to talk about what gear she uses. So here we are.
Yeah, I got my gear box in front of me. We're getting ready to head to Italy and Switzerland tomorrow. We are modeling for one of Casey Jo's workshops. We were modeling in Switzerland, and then she basically gifted us tickets to her Italy workshop that's a few days beforehand. So we are going out and we're gonna shoot an Italy workshop, Italy styled elopements, So we're packing up all our gear, and luckily my gear just lives in a Pelican case all the time. So I pretty much just have to roll it out the door. There's really no packing involved with my gear because it just lives in there all the time. So I'm going to go through what I use. And thinking back to when I first really started photography, this was 2014 was when I really first started, and 2016 was when I was really building Hazel and Lace. And I was confused about gear. I always thought, if I only buy this new lens, or if I only do this or that, or if I only get this, my photography will be better. Over the years, I have really thinned out my gear, and I know what I like. I kind of have a workflow when it comes to what lens I use for what. And I'm just really happy with keeping things very simple. So let's dive into my Pelican case.
Yeah, and I'll also say when she'll kind of go through it all, and then she probably will not give you the serial numbers or the part numbers of stuff.
No.
So I'll make a list of it, because sometimes for me, being brand new, when I was diving in, when someone said a 35, I didn't really know what that meant. And is it a 1.4? Is it a 1.8? Is it a zoom? Whatever it may be. So I'll put together a list. It'll be in the show notes of a little bit more specific of what she's talking about. So you can see if she doesn't use the full name, it'll be included in the show notes.
Okay. The first thing in my Pelican case, right on the top, is my Spider holster. So I know it's really cool to have hold fast holsters, those kind of leather straps that go over your shoulders, but I have back and neck issues, so that never really worked for me, and my hair would get caught. And I also like having free reign to lift my camera over my head or something like that if I need to. So having it connected to that hold fast leather holster, I have one upstairs. I actually just found it yesterday, which is weird. But I hated that thing. So I ended up getting a Spider holster. It's literally just something that snaps around your hips and your two cameras connect to it. But there's no other connections. Once I unclip my cameras from the holster, they're just free floating in my hands. But I've never dropped one of my cameras in years and years and years. So I prefer the Spider. It helps with my back pain. And I just clip both of my cameras in the holsters and it works great. So there's that. And then I have two Canon R6s. So I upgraded, I should say I got a Canon T2i, something that was $300 or something from Best Buy back in Colorado when I was interviewing for a surgery position in Boulder. And after this interview, I was going to go into Rocky Mountain National Park. I'd never been there. I think this was like 2011. And I stopped at the Best Buy and I bought a nice camera. And I went up there and took some really pretty pictures of the mountains. And then when I got home, I was taking pictures of my dogs. And I've always loved photography, but that was big for me to get that Canon T2i, I think it was. I mean, again, this was like 14 years ago. So I've just been a Canon girl ever since. And when I was looking to upgrade to mirrorless a few years ago, I asked my editor, should I switch to Sony? Like, what should I do? And she was like, no, stick with Canon. So I've stuck with Canon. And so I have two Canon R6s. The mirrorless was a little bit to get used to, but now I love it. They're dual card slots, which you need. And then I have the adapters for like my old lenses. So I actually have my workhorse lens that I use like 90% of the time is my Canon 35 millimeter. What is that? 1.4, I think. Yeah. It's on an adapter. It works great. The lens is scratched. It's been scratched for years because I don't use lens filters. I keep the hood on just in case I bang it against something, but that's about all I do. The scratch on the lens actually creates some cool lens flares, but I use my 35 for almost everything. I love my 35.
And it pains me to work with Megan, and she never uses a lens cap.
Yeah.
Ever.
I don't even have lens caps anymore.
Just the hood.
Yeah.
Which my very linear, analytical, anal brain does not like.
But the hoods have saved my lenses from crashing around on rocks and all kinds of stuff, especially when I use those leather holsters and I would be hiking and the cameras are just like swinging. That drove me crazy. But yeah, my hood's on there, which I've seen some reels where it's like, oh, you're not a real photographer, you have your lens hoods on there. Dude, I need these hoods. They have saved my ass so many times. But yeah, I use my 35 for almost everything. For details, portraits, ceremony, everything. 90% of what I'm shooting is with my 35. I love my 35. I love just everything about it. So that's what I'm shooting most of the time. If I want a little bit more compression to like show off the landscape and make it look a little closer to my subject, then I bust out my 50 millimeter 1.4, and it's actually a Sigma. It's not a Canon. I think I've gotten all my lenses used from lensrentals.com, and I've tried out the Canon 50 and the Sigma, and I just liked the Sigma better. So I just used my 50 millimeter Sigma. Again, these are all years and years old. So I use my 50, and my 50 is the lens I will use for like portraits, like close-ups, maybe like waist up. Or if the background's really far away and I want it to look just a little bit closer, I'll use my 50. Again, I'm normally using my 35 for like almost everything. But what I really love my 50 for is like detail shots. So if there are table scapes or setups or something, or if it's like a micro wedding and there's, cake and invites or anything else, it really does beautiful work for like table setups. So I always use my 50 for that. And then I'll use the 35 for more of like the room or like wider angle stuff. And actually, I use my 35 for all my ring shots. I think it does a better job focusing on the rings, and I just get really freaking close up there. So I used to have all these like macro lenses and stuff like that. And like, I don't mess around with that stuff anymore. But I did get some prisms.
You did play around with those,
I
yeah.
did play around with some prisms a little bit for like getting ready photos. And those are really good for getting rid of like crap like that's in the room that you just put like a prism over that corner of the photo and like all of a sudden it looks really cool. So like prisms are pretty cool. But that's really the only time I mess around with that kind of stuff.
So never use any like Pro Mist filters or any other filters whatsoever?
No, but I do want to start using ND filters. So yeah, so when I am hiking or actively shooting, I have both my cameras on my hips, and one has my 35 and one has my 50. And I will majority shoot on the 35, but then I'll pull out the 50 if I feel like I need a little bit more compression to like really show off the landscape or the details. And then I have my big guy, my 70 to 200 2.8. It's a Canon, and I pretty much reserve that for ceremonies only. I really like to get close-ups of the couple's faces, of the ring exchange, of their vow books, of little details, and then like compression during the ceremony. I feel like that's a really important time to really kind of like make them pop from the background. So normally when I'm shooting a ceremony, depending on how far away the like background mountains or whatever are, I'll normally have my 70 to 200 on one hip and then my 35 on the other, or sometimes my 70 to 200 and the 50. It just kind of depends, but normally the 35. And then I always tell my couples when it's time for the first kiss to do an awkwardly long first kiss. Maybe even like stop and then kiss again, because I'm going to be using both lenses. So I'm going to try to get a close-up shot of their first kiss with the 70 to 200, and then I'm going to get a wide angle with my 35. So I always have those kind of on me. If I'm hiking and there's a ceremony involved, I'll have my 70 to 200 in my backpack and then my 35 and my 50 on my hips. But a lot of times the 70 to 200 is just sitting in my case until the ceremony arrives.
What else do you have in that case, Megan?
I also have 2 flashes. So like on-camera flash. I like on-camera flash. Like I think it looks great. I know some wedding photographers got really into off-camera flash. I know some people use off-camera flash for like getting ready photos or whatever. And I never really got into that. I like on-camera flash. So I have 2 flashes. I don't really bust them out that often. I think the only time I really bring them out is if the getting ready area is like a really dark room, because we don't really do receptions anymore. Sometimes if they're having dinner like after sunset and we're covering that dinner, I'll bring out a flash, but that's really all I use it for. But I always bring them with me just in case, because you never know. I also have a pair of gloves that I always carry with me, because even in the desert, it can be cold and I need my fingers to be working. But essentially, it's like these gloves where the tips of your pointer fingers and your thumbs, they can come off and flap down so that I can have all my dexterity while still mostly keeping my hands warm. So I always carry those in my case, because you just never know when a morning or sunrise might be really, really chilly and I need to keep my hands warm. Sometimes I'll even put hand warmers inside. So we also carry hand warmers a lot because I need my fingers to work.
So when I first started shooting with Megan, she had these, and I don't know what I was using, but I don't know if I cut the fingers off the ones that I had or they were just whatever. But I was so jealous, I went and bought the exact same pair because Megan's always was comfortable. And yeah, the little flaps flip back really well, and they have like a little magnet
there's a
thing,
magnet.
so they don't like flop around.
It's very satisfying.
So we'll link to these in the show notes again.
What's the brand? I just got them on Amazon.
FRDM.
Yeah, but they've worked in really cold temperatures.
And I can't imagine they're very expensive.
No.
So
they're a must-have, and if they're not like in my bag, I'm like...
Oh yeah, and they're like in the bag. Like right now it's heat of the summer, July. Those things are in the bag. Don't ever touch anything in Megan's bag.
Don't ever touch my bag, because everything is in there all year long, forever. I'm very crazy about my bag. I also have batteries, and there's like a certain pouch where the charged batteries live versus the used batteries live. I also have a little pouch that has all my SD cards. If you're shooting GIFs and if you're like shooting a lot, like I've always had like 64 gig SD cards. Like when I first started, that was like the biggest SD card you could get was like 64s. Now like 128 or 256. Those are like the ones that you need to get these days, especially if you're doing GIFs or like those high shutter speeds where you just like take 1 million pictures in a second, you know, like that didn't used to be a thing that you could do. But now, like if there's a champagne pop, that's what I'm doing. And I'm making a GIF out of it. So yeah, I have a bunch of SD cards, and the ones that can be formatted and used are in a certain pouch, and the ones that have been used are in my desk. I don't format any of my SD cards until the elopement has been delivered and my couples are happy. So I also have batteries, just like AA batteries for my flashes. Used ones go in a certain pouch. The ones that are not used go in a certain pouch. So I know a lot of people do rechargeable batteries for their flashes, but that's just like an extra step for me and stuff to manage. So I just buy big packages of AA batteries, and I go through them so slowly because I rarely use flash. I also have plastic bags in there.
Large Ziploc gallon bags.
Yeah. Giant plastic bags, just in case it starts raining, I can throw one on my camera real quick. I think I've used that a few times, mostly in Iceland. It doesn't look nice or anything, but they're in there. It's easy to just keep those in there. And then, yeah, I have a couple prisms because I saw Henry too use them and I've busted them out 2 or 3 times. But I'm very much like a keep things simple. Oh, I recently, because I thought I would love the 28 to 70 2.0 lens, so I rented it, and it just totally messed up my workflow.
This is the new Canon zoom.
Yeah, that goes right on the mirrorless, and you don't need like an adapter or anything like that. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna love this lens, and it just messed up my workflow. I've just been doing the same stuff for so long. I don't even have to think. It's just like I just do it. I love it and my clients love it, my couples love it. And so like, why make it more complicated? So I ended up not buying that lens and returning it and just sticking with my 3 lenses and my 2 cameras. And that's it. And they're easy to hike with. It's just easy. I know exactly which lens I use for what thing. And yeah, simple.
And so all of your gear is stored in a Pelican. It's the 1510 case. So that's what we travel with, whether we take it in the car or we fly with it. But then when like on elopement day, Megan will repack her cameras and the lenses into just a backpack. And she's just old school. She just rocks this old REI backpack. Doesn't have like a camera like pouch or
no insert or
no
anything.
inserts, no foam. It's just like the cameras.
It's not like a cool camera backpack.
Yeah.
It's just a hiking backpack.
So again, as a gear person, I like having specific things. Like I have a camera backpack for my cameras. She just uses this backpack for everything.
Oh, yeah. And since all my gear is in my Pelican case, I bring that backpack and I put my laptop in it and my tech kit that has all the chargers and my hard drive and stuff like that. So that all goes in my backpack. And then on an elopement day, I'll have my Pelican case with us in the car, and I'll just put whatever I need into my backpack at that time. And then when we're done, everything just goes right back into my Pelican case.
And that kind of goes along the lines of having like a standard operating procedure that you've developed. We've done a whole nother episode on this. I think it was earlier in 2025. So somewhere in the backlog of our episodes, we did a whole thing about like having a workflow and operating procedure for your gear, for how you do, everything, right?
Yeah.
It just standardizes things. So
I don't have to worry where anything is because I just know where it is. And I just have a way of packing it, putting it together. Because, yeah, it just gets, especially when you have ADHD, you can be so forgetful. So if you're switching, like Todd always has his stuff in different places, I feel like, which drives me crazy. I'm like, how do you know what you have and what you don't have? And like, what if you forget something? Or like, I don't know, that, like, I'm just so forgetful because of my ADHD that like everything has its place and it's always in its place. And including my hard drive and my laptop, like I just know where everything is because when you're traveling and you are talking with clients and you're location scouting and you're doing all this stuff, like if you also are moving things around all the time and don't have a specific place for them, it's too many moving parts. I don't have enough brain power to juggle all those balls,
yeah, and my procedure is way different. Like I am moving stuff. Stuff generally has a location, but I like to, again, because I'm doing photos sometimes, I'm doing video sometimes I need audio gear, sometimes I don't. So I am like constantly moving stuff.
Yeah, and sometimes you have a drone, sometimes you don't. Yeah.
But it's at least like it's the day before we leave and I'm like putting hands on everything. So I know, yep, I have my batteries, I have my cameras, I got the lenses, all the stuff. Like I'm putting hands and eyes on every piece of gear that I have. So it's not just like, it may or may not be there. It's just a different process.
Yeah, and I just know if I have my Pelican case with me, I have everything that I need. And yeah, and I think there's something to be said for having just the set gear that like I just know my gear like the back of my hand. It's just an extension of me. I don't have to guess what it's going to look like when I look in the viewfinder. I just know. And it's cool to get to that point with your gear. And I think a lot of newer photographers are still experimenting with a lot of stuff. And I went through that too. It took me a long time to get to the point where I just have 2 cameras and 3 lenses.
Yeah. And you're still trying stuff, right? You said the 28 to 70, you tried that in January?
It was for that ski elopement we did.
Yeah. So you're still experimenting with stuff, but you kind of have found what you like and you stuck to it.
Yeah. And some people swear by primes. Some people swear by having a 35 and an 85. You know, some people love their 135 prime. Some people swear by having a 24 to 70 and a 70 to 200. You know, there's so many different things you can do. So yeah, experiment, figure out what works for you. But then like, once you find out what works, just stick with it is what I think.
All right. Before we wrap up, I think that was really helpful because when I first started, I didn't know what the hell I was doing for gear wise. But this question kind of was spurred from last week's episode about a bunch of different questions that have come up. And so one of the questions that I thought was worthwhile that we should cover is, how do you know what to get next gear wise? Lens, another camera body, or drone? So what are your thoughts on like upgrading, or like say you got an extra $2,000 in your account and you want to spend it for whatever reason, or you just, want something new or want to increase, what you're offering your portfolio, whatever it may be. What are your thoughts on buying the next thing?
I have lots of thoughts on it. And having the best gear is not going to make you successful necessarily, So I think a lot of people buy all this gear and think it's going to revolutionize stuff, and it kind of doesn't. But I would say that if you don't have two cameras that are the same, then upgrade your camera. Or if you only have one camera, I really think you need two, especially with elopements, because sometimes we're like out in the middle of nowhere. And if one of my cameras isn't working, like that could be devastating.
And you, well, before me, like you never had a second shooter for elopement. So like you would be out of luck if you had one camera that malfunctioned.
Yep. And I've definitely had times where my camera was acting weird, and I had to go with my other one because there wasn't time. It's always during a ceremony, I swear. There wasn't time to like troubleshoot and stuff, and like taking the battery out and putting it back in wasn't working. So having two cameras and then having two of the same camera, I think is great, because for a while I had like my R6 and then like a 5D Mark IV or something. And like going back and forth between those was like an editing nightmare. And then also like, they were just so different. So if you have two of the same camera, I think it just makes everything easier.
When you mean different, like form factor, the buttons are in different places, different functionality, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, and like the way I was focusing was completely different with each camera. What they could accomplish was different. So yeah, I think having two of the same camera is important. And then I think having like a wide angle lens and then a telephoto lens, at least having two lenses that you know really well, that's really all you need. You don't need every freaking lens out there. If your 35 isn't wide enough, which I found in Iceland, the only place I've really had issues with my 35 not being wide enough was in Iceland. And then, gosh, now I can't think of the name of the ceremony spot in Zion, but like the rocks are so tall. But you can use the Bernizer method or Bernizer or whatever, where you just like take a bunch of photos and stitch them together in Photoshop. So you don't need a 24. Although sometimes I've thought having a 24 would be cool, but I can just use the Bernizer method to do a really wide angle shot, especially when it comes to elopements. Like if you only have an 85, our clients don't mind if we kind of walk up kind of close to them during their ceremony. They don't even notice because they're so in the moment. That's all you need. So if you have two lenses, you don't really need any more, honestly. You can make it work, but play around with it. It's okay to keep it simple. Sometimes the more gear you have, the more it just makes your workflow just like convoluted and sloppy,
So there's a follow-up question with this, which was more specific. It said, would you prefer a 70 to 200? So this particular person had, I think she was shooting a 35 and an 85. And so she said, should she get a 70 to 200, or she was also considering a drone? And my opinion on the matter is I recommended the 70-200 to her because she'll get so many more good deliverable photos with that 70-200 than she would with a drone.
Yeah.
Regardless if you shoot in or out of national parks, you can fly it or not, getting that drone in the air and like all the settings and stuff, it's
time consuming.
It's time consuming. It's not difficult, but it does take some time, and it's time that you can spray and pray a shit ton of images on a 70-200 than you can getting a drone in the air. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
But, drone photos are really freaking cool. The ones that we have from our elopement, like I love. But
and we have a drone.
Yeah, we have a drone, but 70-200.
I would recommend that too.
Yeah, the drone getting it in the air is a pain in the ass. Then like knowing the rules of every location you're shooting at, like if you can or can't do it. I always like we've talked about kind of like the leave no trace, even though a drone is just like the sound. I hate the sound of that drone in the air.
I know, me too.
And so again, my opinion of it, for if you had to pick between another lens, or Megan says camera body, or the drone, camera body and lenses all the time.
The drone is like, it's fun, but you definitely need to have extra time built in to be able to put it in the air and take these photos. Because, and it has to be like, okay, we're doing drone photos now,
It's a whole new thing to add to your workflow, like to have your couples pose for it and like get it to work and like actually get good photos out of it. I mean, I'm not a drone expert, but I've flown mine quite a bit. I mean, it's been pretty fun. And it's a fun piece of gear, but if you are cost constrained like most elopement photographers are, I don't think that the drone is for you.
Yeah. And nobody ever really cares about it, honestly.
Yeah, from a photo standpoint, like no one's ever asked like, oh, are you guys going to take photos with drone? No one has ever asked that question.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, if you have already gotten to the point where your workflow is solid and you are booking 8-hour elopements in cool locations that allow drones, and you want to kind of use that as a defining feature of your photography or something like that. Like I'm thinking of Cheryl Ann, like one of our past mastermind members. Like I know she's done some cool drone photos and I love them. But if you don't have your workflow set up during an elopement day and you're not booking like 8-hour things, do that first and then add in the drone, because it takes time.
Yeah, and you're not going to get booked more because you have a drone. I mean, I don't know if that's for certain, but like I can't imagine someone turning you down because you didn't have a drone.
Yeah. There's other things. Yeah, there's other things to work on
that are more important.
Yeah. I love my 70-200. I use the 200, like the 200 millimeter part all the time during ceremonies. It's awesome. I get those tears falling down those cheeks with that 200.
Whenever I'm on the 70-200, I always am cranked the other way. I want it to be wider than the 70 can do. But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah. Well, cool.
All right. Any other gear recommendations or things that aren't worth it that you've dumped?
I mean, I've dumped a lot. I've dumped my 24-70, my 85, my tilt shift. Although sometimes I want to bring that out again. But again, it's like a whole thing to like use my tilt shift. Yeah, I just keep it simple. I don't know. I really like my setup. It works for everything. I like it. So hopefully that was helpful, guys.
Cool. One more quick thing.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, what are your thoughts on like BTS stuff, like these meta glasses, or like just using your phone? Like, what are your thoughts on getting BTS as a solo elopement photographer, or like the little mount that you can like put on your cold shoe that holds your phone?
Yeah, I mean, BTS is important to get content for social media and stuff like that, and it's fun to get. Sometimes we're not good at getting it.
And that's with two photographers.
Yeah,
so
that's with both of us.
That's kind of my extra job, is to get BTS of Megan.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always happen.
Yeah, and then I'm like, did you get anything? And he's like, which is fine. Because we're there for our couples, and like if we get even just a little bit of behind the scenes, that's fine. But like, I don't know how much the meta glasses costs. I know a lot of people use them. I'm not really interested in getting them. I wear glasses already, so I don't know how it would work for me if I'd get like prescription or something. I don't know. But like, I haven't looked into it because I don't feel like it's that important for me. I've thought about the little hot shoe thing. But again, like, I don't know. I would rather be more low key with the BTS that I get. I don't know. I think it's fine with us just getting a few things every once in a while and making like we're just so focused on our couple and having fun that I don't know. The BTS just isn't that great, but you probably want those meta glasses.
I mean, they're kind of cool.
To each their own.
Yeah, and it's just like it's a novelty, kind of like the GoPros and all that stuff. Like, I mean, they have their time and their place, but we're on the same page because we're on the same team. That, like, it's important, but like it's not our first priority or even like our 10th priority because we're getting good stuff of our couple or connecting with them. And if we get one video on a phone that's half-assed,
we can use that.
Yeah,
we can use that for marketing.
So it's just the BTS isn't a high priority for us, but some people like love that stuff. So do your thing.
Yeah.
Well, we hope that was helpful, and we'll see you again next week on the Stoked Podcast.
Bye. Thanks so much for joining us on this week's episode of Stoked. If you enjoyed the show and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe, leave a review, and tell a friend. If you're looking for more inspiring elopement photography content, check us out on Instagram at Megan McPhail. And if you'd like to hear more about my business coaching and how I can personally help you hit six figures as an elopement photographer, then check out my website at www.meganmcphail.com.